Counselors are here. We've got some guests in the room, which is now is when we open the open forum. So open forum is the opportunity to speak, public to speak, and you guys all can talk if you want. Just ask you to keep your comments to under 5 minutes, and then well, I usually tell people try not to be too super redundant, but you guys know what you're doing. So
Yeah.
Come on up, introduce yourself, and take it away.
Thanks for having me. I'm Dean Berglund. Dean, can you pull that mic? Oh, sure. Did you hear what I said, Dean Berglund? Okay. All right. Thanks for having me. I'm here to talk tonight about the Jake brake issue. The engine brake seems to have come up. First thing I'd like to say about it is the last truck to go into Lake Superior didn't have a Jake brake. Lost its brakes, went into Lake Superior. The last truck to lose its brakes on the runaway truck route by the water tower, went storming up there, couldn't even make it because he lost his brakes, tipped over in the brush. He didn't have a Jake brake. To end that problem, the county, well, we've all been in dispute. We're all trying to figure out when they built the truck route, the existing truck route. None of us can come up, but suffice it to say it was going by 2004. It's worked flawlessly since then. I mean, it's been a wonderful thing. It took us away from the hospital, the school, 3 churches, multiple homes. It's been a godsend. It's been a wonderful, wonderful route to take. And it's been going flawlessly for 18 years until nearly 4 years ago when Mr. Antoon Moody started building houses on the truck route. And, when I was watching these houses being built, I was like, well, I wonder if anybody will ever say something, because, let me go back. I'm in my 41st year of trucking. I've trucked all over the United States. I've been in every state. I've been in every province of Canada other than the eastern ones. I've had a Jake for almost all of it, except in 1983 when I was coming down out of Idaho into Washington, and I lost my brakes, and I cleared the bottom at over 130 miles an hour. And I didn't have a Jake brake. It was a manufacturer's flaw on a brand new trailer. Luckily for me, or I would have been in terrible trouble. So I know what it's like not to have an engine brake, and it's a huge, huge safety factor. You built homes, you sold them to people, you knew you were on a truck route when you built those houses. If you'd built those houses and they were putting in a truck route, we may be having a different conversation here. I would get your concern. But you can't build houses and then expect things to change because now you're here. I don't recall any complaints being made until you moved there. That's when the complaints started. There is a woman there who seems to be fond of flipping everybody off, and some days when she's in great spirits, she'll do it with both hands. I just, to me it's just, okay, fine, sorry, but this is what it is. Most of us have self-policed ourselves. 4 in the morning, I'm 4:30, that's me. It's like, and there's a Canadian guy, we run opposite of each other. I've tried to keep off the Jake brake for you guys' benefit. Done my best to do that. He has too. Anders behind us has. But 7 o'clock on, I'm using my Jake brake. I go extra slow that first trip to try and make it. But you're proposing that we put a rule against using engine brakes, and it's a safety fact. It's a safety feature. That Jake brake was made, probably started coming out in the early 70s. Hardly any trucks ever had them before the 70s. And once that thing started coming out, it was the biggest safety factor. It was one of the best things that were ever invented for trucks, because now you didn't have to depend on your wheel brakes. Your wheel brakes get hot. And we're hauling nearly 20,000 pounds more than we were in the 80s. The weight limits have gone up. You can't come down the Gunflint without your engine brake on, unless you're going 15, 20 miles an hour, because you're going to heat up. When I look at it, I along with the safety factor, I go, you come around the corner down past the Baptist church and the sheriff's department, You know, the last kid to run out on that road and chase a ball outside of GES, that hasn't happened yet, because they do. I don't want to be the guy that wasn't using his Jake brake because there's a rule against it, and hit some kid or hurt somebody or T-bone a car because you didn't have the braking power. You run your brakes halfway down the gunflint without your engine brake on, you've lost 25% of your brakes. They're hot. And I and everybody here that drives has had it where your engine brakes quit, you know, a wire issue. I mean, there's always something. It's mechanical. Stopping without your Jake and only wheel brakes, it's very noticeable. And that's with cold brakes, you know. So we're here to ask you to put this to rest. And one other thing I'd like to point out, as you come down Highway 61, you know, you're talking about this for the whole city, or, you know, as I understand it. You come down Highway 61 down that long hill, you know, you might make it down there in the middle of the night when there's no pedestrians. But now you're asking for people to come down Highway 61 in broad daylight without their engine brake on. And as everybody knows that drives, these crosswalks, they're a death trap. And we got 9 of them now after this construction was done. And you come down to that first one by the fish house, and you're in a truck, and now you've just come down fully loaded, and you're watching, you're doing the best you can, but if there's a camper there, you can't see, and you just can't stop. But these people don't look. Everybody sees that. Nobody looks anymore. If there's a crosswalk, you just walk right across. And someone's going to get hit. I don't want to be the one to do that, nor do any of these gentlemen behind me. You know, like I said, I think, you know, we're all in line to try and, you know, do what we can in the middle of the night. But, you know, from the top of the gunflint, where the hill starts, down to the water tower, there's 10 homes. And that's not to mention the pincushion, you know, the little resort there or whatever. Then you look at Creechville, you know, all the way down. There's probably 25, 30 homes. I don't know. I haven't been up that road in a long time. But everybody hears the Jake. And nobody's ever complained in all of my 41 years until now. And I'm sorry that you built on a truck route, but we need to stop this. The engine brake, Jake brake, whatever you want to call it, it's a safety feature. It's one of the best safety features that they ever put on a truck. And since the time I have been in the trucking business, or since any of you here ever got a driver's license, you've talked about and heard about safety. Safety always. And we're here tonight to try and prevent a safety feature from being taken from us. So I'm just asking that the board listens to that, and you know, let's end it. It needs to stop. We'll do our best, but let's stop this. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else want to come up and say something? All right, let us know who you are, and away we go.
I'm Kent Anderson, local here. I'm with Hedstrom Lumber Company and a local logger in the area. Just a few things I'd like to elaborate a little on what Dean was saying. The first thing is the grade that we're all talking about, the Gunflint, is the highest elevation, the longest grade in the state of Minnesota, as well as the lake states. It's probably similar to some of the western passes you'll see in some ways, and so the importance of these trucks being able to mechanically stop with the aid of engine brake is paramount to their safety as well as everybody else. The other thing is, I just want to say I think if you were to put an ordinance in place that they're going to keep using their brakes because there's no other way really for these trucks to effectively come to a stop at the bottom of the hill here. And if you're gonna make your sheriff try to enforce it, I think it would be quite difficult. I understand, you know, if there's a noise issue, in my opinion, it's more of a noise ordinance. It's an issue possibly with, you know, one or two vehicles as opposed to all the Jake brakes. Most of the trucks nowadays are equipped, you know, with muffler systems as well as emission systems that really quiet them down. And by and large, I'm sure that everyone that's running these trucks is very respectful to the neighborhood coming down the hill. So I guess I would just ask that you consider that in your thinking here, because I don't see any way that these guys can go without the use of those brakes in this situation. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Anybody else? Here we go. Oh, almost got him. There we go.
Hi, Anders Zimmer. So I'll just take the brunt of this whole situation because I know I probably have the loudest truck. Pat has brought that to my attention and I have took care of it. There is 2 mufflers on my truck and we have to kind of step back a little bit. I started out 2 years ago and not everybody can afford a $150,000 truck that is quiet and has all this DEF. So, like for instance, I have a 99 and a 2000, completely stock, mufflers in place, and I constantly get told it's extremely loud. But if we were to go back in time to 2001, that is what every truck sounded like. I'm not specifically coming out trying to purposely wake people up or upset people, but at the same time, I have to get up at 12:30 in the morning and go to work and do my job. And that's not gonna change. I feel like there's other routes of going about instead of saying, okay, we gotta take Jake braking and city limits away. Like Ken said, the hill up here is extremely steep. All summer, I have worked on this whole town project. It's been brought up to me multiple times, and I've done the absolute best I can. I'm not purposely coming into town to make a whole bunch of noise to disrupt the peace. That's not what I'm here for. It's when what my equipment is and what I use every day is what I have. I could go home and we could stick 3 more mufflers on my truck, and it's only going to get to a certain point. So I just know there's been a lot of complaints about me specifically, and I understand that, and I have gone in the route of taking care of things today. I went to Napa and I was going to buy another muffler for my truck, and it's 6 weeks out. So I just want everybody in here to know that I'm not out doing it on purpose. Just doing my job and trying to make a living. Thank you.
Thanks, Anders. Anybody else? Aha.
My name's Nathan Carlson, been here before. I just like to say, there's 10 of us here. We're all here for the same reason, and it's that none of us want to die in a truck and none of us want to kill someone. And if this law comes into effect, I don't think anyone here would respect this law for the matter of public safety. And I at least hope they wouldn't. That's it.
Thanks, Nathan. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? All right, close the open forum. Move on with the rest of the meeting. We will be discussing that a little bit later, a couple items down, so you guys are welcome to stay, obviously. And then we'll go from that. That's when we're going to have Pat come up. So move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda has typical 3 items on it. 2 additional items. One is the November 26th fireworks display. That's for the like kickoff of the Christmas season kind of thing they do, and then a hire for a library clerk. So unless someone would like to pull something for consideration from the consent agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve it as presented.
I would so move.
Motion, is there a second?
Just wanted to add,
You want to add things to the agenda?
yeah, put back on the Y.
Well, we've got a motion, so is there a second? If there's no second, then we can go back and do that.
That's all I
Yeah.
wanted to know. Yeah.
So, should we just wait on the second and then?
Yep.
Okay,
Fair enough.
no second, so, moving on, do you want to add a few things?
Really brief ones. I want to look at that Y committee appointment again.
Y committee? What, having that added to the agenda, what do you mean?
Trade.
Oh, trade, gotcha.
Tracy, can you move your mic towards you?
Oh, sorry. And then just a couple quick questions about attendance for Friday's meeting out at the Lutzen Town Hall,
Mm-hmm.
and then that Saturday night dinner as well at the resort. Just want to see who's coming or whatever.
Okay, I do believe that we have the RSVPs for that Lutzen situation, and it has been posted. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just want to know who's going besides me. And then, AUA food distribution. Very quick comment on that as well.
So adding those things to the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Is that a motion then to approve the consent agenda with the additions to the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll
There's
second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. Okay, so next thing we got is bond sale results. So, we've got Bruce on the line, I believe. So probably the best way to go about this would be to, Bruce, just have you break down what the results of the bond offering was and how it compares to what you thought it was going to be and what that's doing for the city. So, you there? Is he there?
I am,
Oh,
yes.
good. Whew. Okay.
Great.
Okay, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of a cold here today. If it's okay, I'm just going to present the sale day report online or on the screen. Can you all see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm usually not this accurate in my pre-sale estimates, but you'll recall a couple weeks ago, I presented to you a pre-sale report with an estimated bond sale that would refinance the city's remaining 2013 bonds. You'll recall that we were using $307,000 of prepaid assessments to reduce the size of the refunding. And if you count that $300,000 of cash that can only really be used for this bond issue, as well as the apples to apples debt service savings, you're saving right around $430,000 over the remainder of the term. And if you net out the $300,000, it was going to be about $124,000. Well, long story short, the winning bid on yesterday's bond sale came in exactly at what we had estimated. And so there's not a lot of new information here to report because literally the winning bid from Citizen State Bank was exactly what we had discussed on the 13th. But I will just hit a few high points. We did receive 5 bids on the city's behalf. The winning bid came from Citizen State Bank out of Roseau. And they had bid a 1.1% coupon, which is what, again, we had in the pre-sale report. There was a pretty wide spread between the 5 bids. Now, given that it's a relatively small bond issue, that didn't make a huge difference in terms of the overall amount of interest, but still, from first to last was about a $40,000 difference. And I was certainly pleased that you got an aggressive bid from Citizen State Bank. I did also note here, again, the future value savings, depending how you look at it, is either $124,000 or $431,000. I'm inclined to really say you are truly saving future debt service equal to $431,000. And you will be dealing directly with Citizen State Bank, so there's no need to engage Ellers or anyone else going forward to help facilitate bond payments. You'll just be making semi-annual payments direct to the bank and still have the option of calling the last couple of years of bonds on February 1 of 2027 or any year thereafter. So if you have more prepaid assessments and can just pay off the bonds in 2027, that would be awesome. So just a couple other details before I ask you to consider the resolution in front of you. This is the bid tabulation. You can see we got bids on your behalf from Citizen State Bank, US Bank, Zions, Old National Bank, and Capital One, believe it or not, has a public financing group in addition to their credit card group. And so those are the 5 bids we did receive. We sent out the RFP to, I think, a total of 26 or 28 banks, including the ones that have a presence in Grand Marais and Cook County. So quite a few, Minnesota-based banks, regional banks, and other banks from around the country that we know have an interest in this type of financing. Then again, you'll notice the debt service schedules are exactly the same in the pre-sale. You'll be paying the amounts from both taxes, future special assessment collections, and sewer utility revenues for the different portions of the bond issue. And then finally, Mayor and Council, again, here's the bottom line savings to the city over the next 8 years or so. So with that, why don't I stop and ask what questions you have or comments, and then again, I would ask you to take up the award resolution awarding the bonds, the refunding to Citizen State Bank of Roseau. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. All right, so this is a good time for questions. We also, resolution 2021-15 is in your packet with the information that he just presented to us to make that an accepted bond offering. So, any questions for anyone? Or motions or anything like that?
I think since you got it right, we kind of talked about it all last time, the purpose of it and all that. And so since the number worked, I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2021-15.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Yes.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Kudos to, I think it's good to, anything we can do to lower our debt payment and thus lower the amount that we need to levy is a good thing. So, so thanks for the work, Bruce. Any other comments?
No, I'm happy. We go right to the bank. It sounds very efficient and should be good.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second, resolution 2021-15. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. All right, thanks, Bruce.
Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
You too, Bruce. Thanks.
Bye.
All right, next item on the agenda is the thing that everybody showed up for. Pat, you want to come on up here? We're gonna call everybody up here, and we're gonna kind of go over the conversation here. And Chris, we have you up here too?
You do have me, yes.
Okay, there you are. Okay, good.
We also have Molly.
And we have Molly as well.
Okay, great.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Oh,
Chris
okay.
just sent her links.
Okay, cool.
Great.
All right, so a little bit of a background. This was brought up as a concern. We asked our legal counsel to do some research on what other cities have done in situations like this to see if there was enforcement and or penalty that could be done, or what can be done to dissuade it or to manage it. And that's why we have Pat here as well, and Chris on here as well as Molly to kind of fill us in on those conversations and what we have in front of us. So I don't know who we should start with first. I'm kind of tempted to start with Pat, but Chris, I don't know, Chris or Molly, I don't know if you guys want to jump in first or whatnot.
Mayor, I can give just a quick synopsis, and then I definitely think it would be good to hear from the sheriff and the county attorney in terms of what their perspectives are on this, because it is primarily a law enforcement issue as well as a prosecution issue, and I am neither of those things. But cities do have, and Grand Marais arguably has in its existing code right now, a provision that generally speaking, addresses the issue of jake braking, which is primarily a noise issue. And so some cities in their ordinances have attempted to better define what is otherwise in your code. I mean, you have a very basic code on this provision. Other cities have attempted to define that more specifically. I can only assume the reason for that is to try and assist with the enforceability of citations that may be issued by law enforcement related to it. But the reality is that we don't technically even need an ordinance to enforce this provision because it's in state law already as well. And I suspect, again, Molly may very well address this issue. I mean, I think the primary issue with this type of law enforcement activity gets to the enforceability of it. I mean, it's a criminal offense. Criminal offenses require evidence, and beyond a reasonable doubt is the legal standard for criminal offenses. So if you have evidence of what is essentially a noise violation in terms of how state law, their rules, as well as how some of these other ordinances deal with this, it raises the issue about how do you obtain the evidence that you need to prosecute something like that. Does the sheriff's deputy stand out on the side of the road, with his decibel reader to determine whether or not the number of decibels have been exceeded for purposes of prosecution? Again, I'll defer to Molly and the sheriff on this, but that's my read of it would be where the problems might come in with enforceability of something like this. So again, you do have something in your code already that generally addresses this issue. Again, it becomes an enforcement issue at that point, whether you want to amend your code to try and have some more specific provisions in it, like some of these other cities have done. Obviously that's a policy issue that you can address. So that's my 2 cents on it.
All right, thanks, Chris. So if I were to summarize what you just said, it basically, we have like a placeholder in our ordinance right now that kind of addresses this really loosely. There are ways that we could address it more directly, but that would be a policy decision that would have to be made, and then language would have to be written up for such, and doubtlessly that would have to be done in consult with the county county attorney and sheriff to make sure that it's actually doable.
Yes, that's a good summary. Yes.
All right, gotcha. Pat, Molly, you can fight for who talks next.
I'll just go quick. As Chris stated, the way the city code is written currently, it basically reflects the state statute, which is defined by Minnesota PCA guidelines for noise pollution. And those guidelines are based on tables, which must be adhered to if you're going to do any measurements, such as decibel readings.
Yeah, these things right here. that
Yes.
we've got in the packet.
So, and I believe at 100 feet for a vehicle traveling more than 35 miles an hour, the threshold is 85 decibels, roughly. So what my office would have to do, which currently operationally is not even feasible due to staffing shortages, as Chris said, we would have to measure from the center line of the road back 100 feet into somebody's driveway, stand there with a decibel meter, calibrate it, take a reading with just ambient noise, take another reading when a truck goes by, take another reading with ambient noise, and calibrate it again. So it's quite a process, and there really wouldn't be any citations if that's the way we were going to do things. It would be referred to the county attorney's office, because we are not going to write citations based upon those readings.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be vetted a little bit more than that. But like I said, it's not really feasible to do that with the staff I had, or currently have, or even had. This summer, maybe it would have been, but I think that this conversation is stemmed from the constructions that we had going on this summer. If we tried to do that now, we'd sit on the gunflint for 3 hours before a truck went by, which is not a good use of my staff's time, because it would have to be an overtime status. So, it is a conundrum, absolutely. And as Anders stated, I took it upon myself this summer to go stop a couple trucks and just have a chat with them about some of the noise and what was going on. And these gentlemen behind me, I mean, they're out to make a living as well. There's safety features on their trucks. I used to drive a truck myself. I used a Jake brake coming down the Gunflint Trail. Coming down the Gunflint Trail obviously is not in question right now because I would be in the county and that's not a part of the city. So, I would say that coming down the Gunflint Trail would be a moot point as far as using Jake brakes. I mean, where the city limits start, even above the water tower, if an ordinance were to go into effect, I would recommend that it doesn't start there. That it would start somewhere around County Road 15, the old Gunflint Trail, or at least you've got some distance and it's not level, but it's not the grade that you're going to come down the Gunflint Trail, and you need to make that corner at the water tower. That would be, if you guys were going to move ahead with this, that would be one of my suggestions. Another suggestion I would also have would be not 24 hours a day. Put some type of time constraints on it.
The first point about where to start,
Mhm.
give me one more reference, because I didn't track when you said the old Gunflint Trail, because we're ending up way over there now, so where are you
The old
suggesting?
Gunflint comes up by the hospital.
Oh, okay, you did
Yeah.
mean up there,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
I was trying to
If you ever came down in the truck, that's where you're starting to pick up all your speed. No matter what you're coming down, that is a nasty push. Especially if the county hasn't been out and plowed it in the winter. Sometimes you gotta just go that much faster to be able to run it out, because you'll start sliding down the hill.
So these, obviously, I mean, these gentlemen know far more than I do about this. So if there was going to be any public comment, I would hope that they would join in on that and give their expertise.
Glad all you guys showed up too. Molly, you got anything to say about this, or?
Okay, can you see me and hear me?
There you are.
Hi. Yeah, so Pat and I have reviewed the city ordinance this summer, and we reviewed the statutes that we could find, which are the same that Mr. Hood found. And our discussions have been all around enforcement and the difficulty of enforcing an ordinance which sets noise levels as the measurement for whether somebody's in compliance with that, with the law or not. And we, as Pat referenced, we also have, limited technical knowledge on this. It is certainly something that we can research. But if we, and by research, I mean, is there an ordinance out there that can be easier to enforce, that would somehow mitigate this problem, or it's probably not going to eliminate it after hearing kind of the folks in your public comment. If this is a safety issue, the city's probably going to want to put safety ahead of noise issues. But it could use more research, perhaps. And what I'm thinking is whether other cities have ordinances which set different standards. Whatever ordinance the city would take would obviously not be able to conflict with the state law. It would have to be read, you would have to be able to read it consistently with that. And I think that's the only comments I have. Of course, if the city wishes to work with us in drafting something new, if you think that there is will out there and that there is, that you can establish a public purpose for it. There would be an opportunity for additional public hearings for people to come and talk, either from the perspective of the truck drivers or from the perspective of the homeowners. That's certainly going to be a matter of discussion, and the ordinance doesn't become final until after that public hearing and publication.
All right, thanks, Molly. Just for devil's advocate status, just to make sure we have a full conversation of all the things that were discussed previously. At the last meeting, we did discuss, just kind of broad, high-level questions about whether or not there was we could designate a space on the roads coming into the city as a just straight up no engine braking concept. Now, hearing the public comments, I do think that there's more to this discussion than just doing a blanket prohibition on something. But is that even a possibility? It doesn't really sound like it is, because if you just say no engine braking, hard stop, period, then do you still have that evidential means to move ahead with that? And what I'm hearing you say is that A, you don't, and two, you don't really have the workers and the ability to enforce that at all, even if we did.
I think that's correct.
Question for both of you.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Question for both of you.
I think that's correct. This is an issue, obviously, that it's very sensitive and very, very close to the people on either side of it. And I don't know. I don't think a hard stop is the answer. I don't. I mean, if you go back to safety issues, I shouldn't. A hard stop would, yes, it would make it easier for my department, my office, obviously, but it's not going to solve anything. I've had some time to think about this, and I think you need to place safety first. I mean, rather than making something illegal or prohibited based upon everything but safety is in my opinion and my professional and personal opinion. I don't think you can do that.
And I'd like to add, I think that some cities may have ordinances which prohibit Jake brakes or whatever, engine brakes, whatever the technical term is. Those cities may not be similarly situated to Grand Marais, with Grand Marais' steep grades coming into town. We also have, the entrance from town coming from the east, from Highway 61. I don't know if that may be the only area where that could be safely done, but I'm not making any commitments. I know that there are truck drivers in the room who would know that better than I do at this point. But we obviously need to take into consideration the unique geography of Grand Marais and how that might affect our ability to prohibit noisy trucks.
Any discussion from council here? Thoughts?
Yeah.
Questions?
It's sort of, to me, it's kind of like a side point. But if whenever we decide there's some ordinance we want to go into place, I don't think a criteria is if you have the capacity to force it or not is one I would want to go by. And I don't mean that in particular to this one, but I wouldn't, then that's a whole nother issue go by to figure it out. And my first reaction was this has been a couple rough last couple years for everybody, visitors and everyone who lives in this town. And I would give all of you guys a lot of grace for that. And when we had a lot of outside truckers, right? It was just a big year.
37 years.
Yeah, and all day long, they're back and forth, and I get all that. So my wonderment is this still really an issue or not? How much is it every day when life is sort of somewhat back to normal? Because I don't hear you guys every day. I'm right in the heart of town, but I don't hear it as much or at a distance, so.
Maybe we need to give ourselves a period of time to get back to normalcy. I don't know of any construction that's gonna be going on this summer that's gonna require 37 extra trucks up here. You know, maybe we need to sit back and take a look now that all this is done. I mean, there's gonna be more construction. I mean, they did re-blacktop, 7 miles outside of town, and they did Grand Portage for 15 miles, and there's still 18 miles to go, but I don't know that that's on the calendar. But one thing our county needs to do, and that this could have been taken care of, and you wouldn't have had 37 trucks running here every day, was if we had opened up a pit in Hoveland and allowed them to put up a bat plant there.
Well, yeah, that's a different conversation.
No, I know.
So we'll open that can of worms at a different.
I know, we won't get down that rabbit hole, but that would have eliminated all those trucks.
That's a fair point.
And I
Because
might
all
do
the
that.
work that was done in the city, it pounded the Gunflint out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was part of,
Extreme damage was done to that
And
road.
could I say one more
They'll-
thing about this?
let's keep it
It's not
kind of
just
short.
this group of truckers. There's over-the-road truckers that are coming, and they're coming out of Canada. They're hiring foreigners. I don't know if any of you've seen these bison trucks, but half of them are wearing turbans. And I load out of the same mill that they load out up in Thunder Bay, and I wouldn't let half of them drive my tricycle. And they're
Well-
coming right through our town.
Let's keep that on. That's another conversation as
Right.
well. So we'll not. I don't think we have time for that conversation here either.
Well, and I'm late to the table, and you guys are probably already well versed than I am about what the feedback was initially. But I did kind of wonder if things are if it might be better. But if there's some very definite,
Let's
I mean-
talk-
you know,
yeah, go ahead,
issues.
Andy.
I'll talk, since Dean called me out earlier. I think that the conversations that I've been a part of, and I don't know if I've actually called the sheriff's department. I mean, I probably did at some point, but, mostly asking the question early on. This was like a long time ago, like what, like holy buckets, and it's gotten a lot better. But I think one of the questions that I asked, and which is where all this came from, was the enforcement action that the law enforcement has to do with the decibel reading to follow state statute is so cumbersome and labor intensive for the sheriff's department. All I did a couple meetings ago was ask, what if it was no engine braking, right? Because if that was, which everybody here engine brakes down the road, and I can pick up 2 trucks that, you know what I mean? And I don't even think it's you, Anders, honestly,
Both of mine.
but
He's gonna own it.
but I mean, I don't even know who it is. But it's it does, what's that?
What time of day?
Well, it's starting at 6:30 in the morning.
That
Yeah.
late? It's almost noon.
Well, there's some at 4 something in the morning, used to be, but again, that it's not, but somehow everybody else is and it's equipment, I'm guessing, right? It's equipment on the trucks on why some people can, their engine braking coming down, but you don't hear a thing, right? It just sounds like a truck going by, which,
2013 right there makes no noise. 2001.
Sure.
Make noise.
If you were to
And
drive
that's-
a truck
and that's
yourself,
maybe that's-
you would use it automatic. You wouldn't even know you're using it.
Right.
If you did, you'd do it the same thing.
well, if I'm in tow haul and I'm hauling something with my truck, absolutely, I'm using engine braking, right? It's just
But
different
it's a
than.
different style.
Right, absolutely. So I asked a rhetorical question after talking to Pat, because I get continual comments about it, was what, he's saying it's difficult for them to enforce. So I asked the question, well, what if we did that? And this is what that is, right? Which is great, that's super helpful, right? So it seems to me, obviously, public safety is what is number one, right? And I don't think all of us live here, and we all have to, what's that?
I said that's why we're all here.
Right, yeah, right on.
I feel like most of us would be pretty scared to drive on that hill.
Oh, yeah, no.
Without a Jake brake.
And that's all my point. I'm not saying that that was simply my question that I asked, right? And which as soon as it gets swept into no engine braking for anybody, right? When everybody's doing it, what you're hearing is, it's still only a couple trucks that are it's obviously the summer was a whole different gamut. It was just, but that's life in Grand Marais this summer with construction. So, that's, I don't think anybody that lives on a county highway can't expect truck noise, so I don't think, you know, I mean.
I do think
So-
that what we do have right here is we have a really unique opportunity too. That there was something that was brought up to city council about a concern. We aired that concern. We got all you guys in the room, which is amazing because, like, I mean, from Anders, what you're saying, like you've done work on your truck, you try not to be a dick to people when you're going down and engine braking. Like if we could get that kind of an acknowledgement from all you guys, and I know that you guys are not going out there trying to be dicks. Well, maybe if that lady's flipping you off, you're gonna Jake brake a little harder.
I had a
But-
conversation.
but-
I had a
but-
Jake brake, we have the airplanes. Listen.
But I mean, but
I
like,
mean, well, just let me finish
Yeah,
here.
go
I
ahead.
mean, because I do appreciate that you guys came because like I'm not a trucker. Like I've heard trucks come down that hill, and some of them are really freaking loud. And like I've been working over at the school at GES, and sometimes when those trucks come down, they shake the freaking windows. You know, and that's one of those things too about like the awareness of where you guys are, the power of your trucks. You know, like Anders, you're saying your truck's loud. You know that, so you use it differently, right? 2013, quiet as a hawk. Like you can just kind of slide right by, right? I mean, maybe not, but I mean, you're more aware of what the equipment is that you're using, and you can use it appropriately in different spaces. So I mean, like we've had like just in this conversation, we've had you guys talk. Okay, this is the grade we got going down the Gunflint. That's freaking scary, right? So we're gonna use our brake going down that. Coming around the corner, like that thing, sometimes there's conditional concerns for that, and also that's the steepest part of the hill. So you're gonna be using your brake around that, but then you got this nice long spot that you can kind of slowly get the speed down, and then you come around the corner by Pat's office there, and you just got that last little bit before you get down to the Gunflint. I mean, to me, that sounds like you guys are good enough drivers and you know what you're doing enough that you can manage that and keep everybody safe and keep your truck safe. Like when I first moved up here, it was a year after Tommy's fish house got blown up, and now I remember the conversation that happened about that, and that was just like, you know, it was a complete community coming all together around it, and they're trying to find a solution. Well, if we have a solution, you guys are part of it too. So it's really cool to have you guys here so that you can be a part of this conversation. We can kind of come up with how are we going to move forward on this. You know, trucking's a part of this community. We need to keep it there. So how can we support you? How can you guys support us? How can we all be on the same page here? I don't think anybody wants to put any additional ordinance in place here, especially not that guy sitting across the table from me. And I would love it if we didn't have to have this conversation again. So I guess that's where I'm at with it. I don't know what the rest of the council thinks about it, but if nobody else has any additional comments or questions, then I think that we've done a pretty good exercise of figuring out where this lands in our city ordinance and our enforceability and in what the community feel about it is. So what do we got?
I do have one other question. Maybe you two have already answered this, but if other cities have other things in place to deal with this, I mean, have we discovered there's any better answers, or have you not had a chance to check and see if there's some wonderful answer that we're just unaware of,
I have not researched any of it.
just in case there was
Most of them
something?
cities probably don't have a grade like this coming down into both towns. So I mean, even if you were to take by
In other
just
words,
below the old pool,
unless we went out to the Intermountain West is where we'd have to go. I get
Yeah.
that. And that's fine. Just wanted to
but
ask.
I mean, even coming down the hill, if you did it coming down the Gunflint, where do our local deputies sit? By the water tower. Now you have a runaway truck ramp, and you're not going to hit the woods. You're going to hit them cars that are sitting there, people talking. Now you have another incident, because that's your only exit. You don't have an exit down below anymore. You're not going to ride the corner out.
Yep. I just want to make sure that, sometimes there is, and we don't outreach enough to find out if someone else, has explored the possibilities. That's all.
It seems like with what, in my head, having Molly say that what Chris brought up is what they found as well, pretty much says that there's not much flexibility on what we can do in addition to. So in my mind, I think that the solution is sitting mostly in this room. And like, I also agree with you guys that we had 37 truckers in town this weekend. A lot of guys who don't have any connection to this community. They're going to come in, they're going to do their job, they're going to try and get it done as fast as they possibly can. And I know for a fact that Pat pulled a couple of those guys over and had conversations with them because they were going too fast and they were hitting their brakes way too hard, and really disturbing the peace. So So I don't necessarily see that the problem is in this room, but I definitely see that part of the solution is. So if that works for all you guys, I mean, I think that works for me. And the rest of the council maybe too, but I'm not gonna push this topic anymore.
So the flip on that to me is we're sort of at a live and let live and realize we're all in this together with a few different things that we have to accommodate, which is fine with me personally. But in the same vein, we got all you guys tonight, but are we sure we're reflecting then the people who might be potentially
That happened once before and others just like, come on, calm down. So.
who might still be uncertain or not totally settled on this as well?
Oh, people from the community, you mean?
The people who were concerned initially about this potential noise or interruption to their
Well,
daily
like what
lives.
Dean was saying, I think that that's part of the reason why these guys are part of the solution, is to work on getting back to a level of normal. Work on getting back to a level where there isn't like enough disruptive engine braking happening at, sensitive places.
I
or
know that's what
whatever.
I said initially, but what I'm just asking now is you said they're all in the room. I want to make sure we got something then to say back to the people who are concerned. Because they're not sitting in here today.
Mhm.
Right.
So when you say, I think this is a done issue,
I'm saying I'm not pushing it anymore.
okay, that's to me a done issue. Then I just want to make sure, what are we offering back out to where this originally started from, because they're not necessarily here. That's all. Just want to make sure, or we may have a different crowd the next time we get together. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Am I the only one thinking that? Even though I personally am not.
Well, I
you
kind
know,
of understand what
hugely
you're saying. So
upset with
let's,
this.
just a quick second. So like when we were in town, Craig Schulte, he lives on 8th Avenue. That is where MnDOT sent me for work, is down 8th Avenue. So obviously, you're gonna have way more commotion on 8th Avenue. You're not gonna see a truck on 8th Avenue. I couldn't even tell you where.
Yeah.
You know, and then coming across 7 in front of the school, they had us going that way, they had us going in front of the hospital. I mean, we were going around city blocks at points,
Mhm.
but that's how it was done. I mean, that ship has sailed, road's done. I mean, we're down to us in this room and another 15 people. But when the snow flies, you're looking at the working class here. You know, that's another big thing. And all we're doing is coming down 61 and coming down the Gunflint.
Sure.
You know, we're not gonna be driving, there's gonna be no trucks in town unless there's a delivery truck going to the hospital, something like that.
So that gets back to the fact that I didn't know where all the complaints were coming from, but I know exactly what you're saying, and if we think that takes away a lot of that, which it should, there was all sorts of complaints about all sorts of people on city streets, and a lot of us just being on these streets that weren't usually there all summer. I mean, it was just a crazy 2 years. We just had to get through it. So if we think then we're okay on that end, I'd just like to make sure this is settled.
Well, the question is whether or not we're gonna continue to get complaints. And so that's why I say that I think these guys are part of the solution, because if we continue to get complaints, this is gonna come up to the council again.
Yeah.
And so if and that's when we're gonna have to take a deeper look at it, if there's still complaints that are impacting the quality of life in the city. So if we can do everything we can, and we meaning like the Royal we here, do everything we can to keep that from happening, then I don't think we have to talk about this again. So I guess when I was saying, I'm not gonna push it, part of that was in saying that I'm catching what these guys are saying, that they're using their brakes for safety, and they're not trying to be disruptive in what they're doing in their work. Take you guys at your face value, and then we can all, we can keep monitoring this, but I don't think it's gonna be a problem that's gonna come up the same way. Because we are talking like legitimately 2 truck routes coming down 61 and coming down the Gunflint into town. And if we can manage those, and these guys have driven those roads 100,000 times, so hopefully we can manage that and get it to a point where we won't get complaints that were like we got in the last 2 years. So in a way, this might be everything kind of coming to a head from 2 years of frustration of construction. And if it isn't, we'll continue to get complaints, and then it'll come up again. So I think that's kind of where we're at.
And I think at that point, we know, from what Molly was saying, what Pat was saying, that, we know what those next steps will be. We've clarified that, so.
I don't think that I think that's the key. I mean, it was the conversation of like, how is the enforcement side of it? I mean, it's a state statute, like, we didn't create a law, that's just the state statute, and it's in our ordinance, so it was only a question of like, how do we make Pat's life easier to be able to do that, because again, but that then sweeps this broad stroke across everybody that drives a truck, that all of a sudden now you can't use this thing, which seems like that's obviously stupid, but it's just there's a question in, well, okay, so this is an ordinance that, like, we didn't create, and it's state law. So, you know, if it's just as simple of conversations with the people that are causing it, and, you know, then that's that, and everybody can keep driving safe and doing the best they can, and that's great. I don't want to put extra rules and on top of stuff. I guess when I read the packet, I was like, whoa, there's an ordinance in here about no jake braking. That's going to be interesting. Because I just asked, like, what if we added the language, no jake braking? What does that mean? Not like we're actually going to have an ordinance, so.
It's good that people are paying attention, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Well,
Is the Gunflint Trail, that's a state aid road, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, then, right in the ordinance, no sign can be installed up there unless the DOT
and
is on board and advised of that.
And I think you'd also have to check with the Scenic Byway Commission as well.
Yeah.
Oops.
And that's already in the ordinance.
Yeah.
So in my personal opinion, and I had garbage truck for 19 years. I came down that hill many, many times. Of course, back then it was just the New World Allison transmission that held me back. I never had a jake brake on my truck. But it is a steep grade, a very steep grade. And it's our grade, it's right behind our town, and it's not going away. And it's been there forever. We did a lot of construction to make it better, to keep trucks from going into the lake. And, you know, for people living along it, it's unfortunate that that's where you live, but trucks do go by there. And I think safety is a very, very important thing for the driver and for the other people on the road. I'm glad that the issue came up. I'm glad that everybody's here, because now I think we understand, you know, it's a noise issue, and it's also, it's a very difficult thing for the sheriff or anybody to enforce unless you have a truck that is very, very obviously obnoxious. Then you can decibel check it by the ordinance you already have in place. So, I mean, I don't know where else you're going to take this.
Well, we could put
I don't
together a
think-
GoFundMe for Andrew's truck.
He's getting a new one.
Well, I think that's the thing, is I don't think it's not like, I don't think any of the complaints that we got were like, these trucks all the time are driving, I mean, it was like specific vehicles that were, you know, obviously people knew what that road is. I knew what road that was when I moved up there. I mean, that's not the question, but the question is if you're 400 feet away from the road and standing 4 feet away from somebody having a conversation, you have to pause your conversation. It seems like that might be, you know, if you can get pulled over driving a Honda Accord with a broken muffler, you know, how is that something you can get pulled over for, but there's no way to enforce it, right? I mean, again, 99% of every truck that goes up and down that road, no issues. So
What about Harley Davidsons? A
absolutely.
group of them come through, oh, cool, it's a motorcycle. Not one thing's ever done about them.
Hello.
But that's just the way they come. They buy them that way. Right from out of the factory.
Yeah.
Can I
It's
just say one quick thing? I just make an offer. Any of you have any concerns, or, you know, as you go, you might get different complaints, or people that say they might not know because it's a truck, you feel free to call me anytime. Be glad to talk to any one of you guys.
Well, I like the idea of being a little bit more proactive about this than digging into what we can do to cut things off. And I mean, is there anything else that anybody has to say about this? Because I think that we've kind of come to a place of understanding on it, and I'm ready to move on. So, anybody?
No, I mean, to me, this is what it means to live here. but I think with all the new people we have coming into town, I can see we'll have things like this from time to time, and other people living. But this is what it means to be here, and safety is first. The other thing this does bring up is that whole stretch of roadway. To me, this is one angle of it. You know, we have that stretch, comes around a corner. What does it do? It hits right by a school. Now we've got other businesses considering the other side of that road to build out on. We're allowing in that business park to people have a home with their business, which is a cool idea. But when I keep hearing safety, 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 and kids in motion on that roadway, I think that roadway is an issue, can become an issue when you see all those other parts to it. And it makes it even worse to put a truck driver right in the middle of all that sometimes. I think this lights up to a larger issue about the way that road works in general. And I have fun zipping down that road. Who wouldn't? So I think we kind of set ourselves up sometimes.
I like to do that road. I don't go fast on that road.
Don't you?
No. Anyway, Chairman, you got something to say?
I'm not chairman.
Not right now? Okay,
I'd just like to put it in that perspective that I'm not exactly sure how many loads of chips that Edstrom's puts out a year that come down that hill, probably 600.
I do 600 myself.
Yeah, so it's
1,200
really
with me.
But anyway, you had, just on the Grand Portage project, you had over 5,100 transfer loads come down that hill in the last 2 summers. So that was just that project. Like Dean was saying earlier, it's gonna get back to normal.
Sense of normal.
You had a lot of material came down that hill in the last 2 years.
Okay.
And go up it.
And go up.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that it's really important to hear your guys' perspective. I appreciate y'all coming and sharing what your experience is of it. I mean, that's what we need to hear. So,
Yeah.
thanks for coming. We're gonna
Thanks
move
for
on.
coming.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
The chairman.
Now you're-
Am I needed any longer for the meeting?
I think you're. Molly, thank
Thanks
you
for
so
coming,
much.
guys.
Thank you,
Molly. Thanks.
Thanks for having us and
Thanks, guys.
invite us anytime.
Well, only when we have work for you.
All right.
All right, thanks,
Thanks,
Molly.
Dave.
I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pat. That's all right. I'm just going with what I said. If you ever want to talk.
Yeah. Right on.
All right, council, moving right along. Okay, next thing on our agenda is repealing tobacco regulations. So if you read the memo, basically the bottom line of this is if we repeal our tobacco regulations, that means that the county takes it over. The county has robust tobacco tobacco regulations, and the county and the city will work together on making sure that the transition is seamless with the state. So this is, do you have anything you want to say about this, or is that pretty much it?
Unless people have questions, I think this is pretty simple.
I have a question. I think we asked the county tobacco ordinance requirements. What are they?
I think they're pretty much the same as ours.
I know what the city ordinances is.
No, we looked at it back when we had the
Yeah,
20 folks here.
Tobacco
I can send it
21.
to you again, Craig.
Tobacco 21.
So it will be different?
Different than ours, yeah. I think the issue was that rather than writing any new ordinance in the city to try and comply with Tobacco 21 concepts, the county's ordinance already did, and people were happy with it, so we'll just stop regulating and let them take it over.
The current,
It seemed like, what I remember from that meeting was from where the county was, the state was, and even the feds maybe even, it was like, wait, why are we doing this? Like
Yeah.
everybody else, like they were asking,
We're doing the same thing.
yeah, to do
Yeah.
the same thing, and it just seemed like,
Big redundancy.
And,
Yeah.
and we're not doing anything with the licensing other than record keeping and sending a list to the state. The county can do that, and all the other enforcement issues are being handled by the county and the state, so
yeah.
it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to be in the business.
All right. We have ordinance 2021-02. We also have time for some more discussion if we need it.
So this means too, if you're a happy shopper, you're gonna see consistency whether you're in Tofty or Grand Marais or Portage. Well, I don't know, it's
Portage
Portage?
is
No, they
Okay.
can do.
Sorry
what they
about
want.
that. Not good. Gunflint Trail, we'll see consistency then too.
Yeah.
Anything else, Craig?
Yeah, a seed was planted at a previous meeting by a council member about doing away with the sale of tobacco products in the city of Grand Marais. And then this comes up. So I have some lingering ideas of what's going on in the background here that kind of maybe is upsetting to a certain point at this point.
Well, this couldn't be further from that, Craig. This is us not having any rules about tobacco. We're not telling people anything about it. So if anything happens where the county passes an ordinance and the city council doesn't like what it says, the city council can always step back in and
Well, that's my question.
pass an ordinance and start licensing
Well, that's my
tobacco
question.
again.
We don't regulate, the county doesn't regulate our liquor licenses
No.
or our on-off sale ability. But in this, we'll be letting them regulate tobacco.
But if
I
we,
mean,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I feel like we're just kind of letting them do the work. I don't feel like there was gonna be a huge change. I mean, there were some changes, but it didn't feel like it was a.
What were the, I don't even remember. now.
Yeah, I don't quite remember what they were. There were some changes, but.
Well, I just look at St. Louis County, for example. I know what the
Yeah.
city of Duluth did, but St. Louis County didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, if St. Louis County had done the things that Duluth did, it would affect the whole, it would affect Hermantown, Proctor, you know, all those outlying areas. So that's just the thing that I think about. I mean, I understand what this is about. I just find it somewhat convenient that it comes along after some comments were made. So, I mean, I don't know where this is going, but.
That's
you know.
not at all the story in my mind, Craig.
Well, no, I hope it isn't, but I'm
What,
just
what,
thinking.
I mean, we had this
'Cause it-
conversation, I don't know how many years ago. And at that point, when Tobacco 21 folks first came and talked to the council really didn't want to pursue any changes. And then more recently, when Tobacco 21 folks came and talked to the council, what I heard from you all was, we do want to pursue changes, and we think the best path to do that is to just let the county's ordinance take effect in the city. So this is because the council said they want to do this.
So then who issues the licenses then?
The county.
The county?
Yeah.
So the merchant or the business will work directly with the county on a renewal?
Yes. So their renewal process is already done. They're a little bit off of schedule with us. We had calendar year and they did theirs. They've just went through theirs. So folks, part of this ordinance is it wouldn't take effect until the end of the year. And between now and the end of the year, then we'll work with our licensees to make sure that they know what they need to do with the county to go through their license program. We've only got a couple of people that do this, so that won't be difficult. We've already met with the county staff.
I don't know how many licenses are in the county.
Yeah, I don't know how many there are. We have 3 in town
Yeah.
that we're doing, so.
7, 8, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the counties, the folks that do the licensing, we've met with them, they're ready to do this. I think that their process is pretty simple, and even one of our 3 licensees actually already has a license in the county because they have a Storm Tofty, so.
Ordinance, this ordinance, since it's an ordinance, this is first reading.
If you're interested tonight, this would be a first reading. If, you know, the idea is that it wouldn't take effect till December 31st, so we've got plenty of time for a second reading. And, you know, my intention was that we'd make sure that we've had personal contact with all of the licensees before your second reading, made sure they have an opportunity to come talk to you if they have any concerns. I don't expect any, but.
Okay.
Okay.
Is this where we could then just see what the county regulations are?
As far as like have it presented or?
Or just something to read if they don't have to come and
Yeah.
present it?
Yep, I can send you a link to it. We had it in a previous council meeting, so they had a nice presentation you can read.
Because I sense there is a difference, but.
There's a difference,
Right,
yeah.
so
Our rules
if-
are very simple, there's not a lot to it, and in order to make any changes to go with the spirit of the Tobacco 21 conversations, our rules would have had to get a lot more complicated. And so rather than going through the process of creating our own specific rules, why not have the same as, and it's not often that we find that it's appropriate or easy to just use what the county has, so this is a great chance to to do that, where we really don't have any difference of opinion about what we want to see happen right now.
I think that would address Craig's questions then. Or maybe you already have that material, Craig, I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Well, I was here for the presentation, but
Yeah.
I listened to Tobacco 21, but I wasn't under the impression that was actually the counties. I mean, Tobacco 21 is just it's,
Yeah, that's just the organization.
yeah, it's a process.
Yeah, and the county went through a rewrite of their regulations
Right.
based on that.
So that's what I mean, so the final product is then what you could look at. Now,
Would be
just-
probably on maybe the county's website. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can
I'll
get
look.
it for you as well. But, you know, your other concern, the council always has the authority to make changes to this if they feel it's necessary, so.
And then going forward, it would be a city and county conversation. Or
Until-
I don't
December.
imagine there would be
Until
any
December.
need for a conversation going
I
forward.
meant in the future.
Yeah, if there was ever a need, then we could talk to the county or we could just take action ourselves.
Right. Just enjoying the efficiency of having it all be one, I would assume it'd be a conversation
Mhm.
together, right? I mean, if that would arise in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any strong feelings, ordinance 2021-02? Well, actually, I'll just go ahead and make the motion. I make the motion for the first reading of ordinance 2021-02. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
I heard her say it first.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I'll back her up.
Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. Moving right along. City administration has brought forth a draft administrative assistant job description. I think that I will turn this over to you guys to say what you workshopped in this job description from what it was previously, and then what we're looking for is a motion to approve the job description so that we are prepared to go through the task of trying to find a candidate.
So just some quick background. The makeup of our staff has changed pretty dramatically in the last 5 years, as has the character of the duties in the office, based on pretty big changes we've made with our utility billing system. And through those changes, we've also had some staff turnover, and really this job is something that we've been working on this description for a little bit of time now, and that we lost our city secretary. We have impetus to finish what we started here and get this job description done. So this is based on, it's a combination really of two previous job descriptions, the city secretary and the PUC utility billing clerk, which we used to have two folks doing those jobs, and really it's been taken over by one with some of the technological changes that we've got. The job itself assists really every department with administrative functions. Also is the primary point of contact for folks that come into City Hall or call City Hall, and administers a lot of the utility billing regular processes, including dealing with our automatic meter reads and working with some of our software vendors to make all that happen. A lot of our finance functions, they play a role in. The job itself is one where we expect the ideal candidate to be friendly and have good personal skills with folks, to have an ability to handle technical work, and also to be willing and interested in a variety of things, including interruptions, because that's the character of the job. The pay that we've included in your memo, just for conversation's sake, is the pay of the PUC utility billing clerk position that's already been negotiated with the union. If we approve this description, then we'll send the description to the union and tell them that's our intent. It's the higher of the two rates of the two positions that we've combined here, so hopefully that will be okay with them. If not, we're going to be doing negotiations in the next few weeks to talk about our contract for next year, so we can, I think, deal with it pretty effectively then. Any questions about what the job description says or what the duties of the job would be?
Seems pretty clear to me. Any questions from the council or motions to entertain?
I would move to, I guess, accept the description or
Adopt the job description.
adopt.
And that starts the action of bringing you in, et cetera. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Would you also include the suggested pay in your motion?
Just, do you have to specifically call that out?
If you wouldn't mind, because then we will use that as part of our conversation with the union, but we'll also be advertising it.
Posting
All
this.
right.
Yeah.
All right,
Put that
okay,
into
so
the
we have a motion
city
and a second
finance.
to approve the draft administrative administrative assistant job description with a minimum pay rate at $20.58 and a current maximum of $24.69. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, so we've got some things here. We have a Y committee reappointment. So you can't do that? Is that what the deal is? Or what do you want to talk about with the Y committee?
Oh.
This is you.
Sorry. So you guys like put me on the Y board thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you want to trade me for something on that one, or take that one?
Do you know why they're meeting? When are their meetings?
I think they tend to be on Mondays at 4:30. Can look at the personal
Might actually work
calendar.
better for me. You take active living steering committee and I take the Y?
Y advisory council, right?
Yeah.
From 4 to 5 on Mondays, and I don't know if that's every other Monday or once a month, but I see that on the calendar. What are we trading for here? It's like a game.
Active living steering committee.
Who is that?
That's Andrea Orist and the clinic.
So the clinic.
Yeah,
Okay,
Tim
got
used
it.
to be the rep when you were last on.
All right, I can do that. It's fine.
You'll have to work at the bike rodeo.
That's right.
Well, that would be fun.
There you go.
At the bike
Just
rodeo.
hold.
I'll
That's
send
the
out
most
the
fun
pics.
thing they
If
do.
that works
so
for you, I don't think we need a motion to do that, do we?
Well, you made a motion to make the appointments. It wouldn't
Okay,
hurt to
fine,
do
we'll
it
make a
again.
motion to do that. I make a motion to switch my active living steering committee appointment to Tracy and to assume her YMCA advisory group position.
Like rodeo, yes.
Okay, so that's, motion, is there a second
I'll
for
second that.
You second that? Okay, motion
I
and
will
second.
second
Any
it.
further discussion? Good deal.
All right, thank you.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right, so next
And
thing,
then what's
Lutzen
the-
meeting, you just want to know who's going to be there on Friday
Is
and
someone
Saturday?
going on Friday? We're on the agenda.
I'm going on Friday.
I was planning on going on Friday.
I was planning on going, just, I had it on my schedule. I don't
I'm
know.
not going.
Okay, thank you. Saturday night dinner?
I was thinking about going. I'm going to be there.
I'm hoping that Michael and Jay and Tracy are all thinking about going because we are SVP'd for you, or you are SVP'd.
No, I'm going, for
Good.
sure.
I
Yeah.
RSVP'd for
You do
myself.
me?
No.
So
Good.
yes, I'm going. Okay, just
Because
curious.
I did.
Okay, I RSVP too. Any opportunity to get to talk to those guys, we try and take it.
And then
AUA.
the last thing is, okay,
Oh, yeah,
so
the AUA.
I don't know as much about this, but I volunteer whenever they're here for the AEOA food distribution, which is just started up again this month. It had ended, I think June was the last time we did it. And what I noticed is there weren't many people, and certainly not as many people as we'd had in the past, which I think is just a general awareness piece. So I was going to ask to help on that, if it would make sense for like maybe Patrick to coordinate with Andrea Orst, just to see like, could we put that in our newsletter? Could we put that on the city webpage? Just other ways to get the word out about that.
We
And
can talk to, see what Grace Grenagher's doing, what resources are available that the city can tap into that the county has in place, because I think they're the ones who oversee that. Is that right? The AUA food.
We'll have
And-
a conversation with them. We can do whatever our regular things that we're sending out, we can find a place to put that in there.
I just said that would be one maybe we could help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
To see, that was it.
Cool.
Because it's a nice, cool program, and there we sat with a lot of food today. So,
Great.
that was it.
All right, we'll go to council and staff reports. So Craig, you got anything?
No, I do not.
Anton, any reports?
Nope.
Tracy?
Yes. I went to, by the way, you guys didn't know this, but I was also appointed to the Old Shore Beach
Mhm.
Road group. And
Parks and Trails
thanks to Tim Nelson, I found that out. Pardon?
Parks and Trails, were you at that?
No, I'm not part of Parks and
Oh,
Trails.
it's the,
The Passion Pit thing is a different.
Passion
Oh,
pit
yeah.
deal.
Yeah. I don't know how I was the lucky person, but Tim informed me. So there I was.
Kelly was on, so.
That, I think that was what I heard.
Kelly was doing that, yeah.
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 Kelly and Tracy, I think they're the same thing. So Myron gave a nice little thought that possibly the Historical Society would in the future like to collaborate more with Portage on items like this when things go forward, depending on, this is an example where things are going forward. So that was his part of it. The rest was just a report of how things have been going. So they certainly appreciate the doggy poop stations. And they said the garbage cans have been looking very good. Garbage hasn't been overflowing. Just everything is in much better this year. They went through and presented on PowerPoint a land acknowledgement statement, which is being prepped for the property along with other potential county properties. And her question was if the city would have any interest in having her come and present this at one of our meetings as well.
Absolutely.
So.
I was in on the early drafting of that, and I'm not sure if it's changed much since those previous days. That was something that the city was looking at. We were looking at doing that, I think, starting probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
So definitely something we can have them present.
So would you like to? Okay, I'll let her know, and then we'll get that on the agenda. And those are the big highlights for me from that meeting. And I'm now correcting my language. Old Shore Beach.
Oh, got it. Note taken. All right.
Here we go. Thank you.
I have a post-board meeting tomorrow, so I'm going to be doing that, other than discussions with people around town about various things. I've been hearing lots of positive things about the Highway 61 project, and it's been really amazing to see people using it and using it well. So that's largely my report. Michael?
Nope.
You guys?
Next week, we've got PUC and Planning Commission. Planning Commission will be looking at a request from the EDA to modify some language up in the business park. Although we may just kick that to the next meeting, depending upon whether the EDA wants to come and have a chat with it, because it's going to require a public hearing. We need to have a public hearing to look at it. It's pretty straightforward. I don't know that there'd be much to talk about next week. So we'll
Is that
see.
like changing the language for services?
It's to have residential uses included in more of the park. So there'll be, you'll see, and boy, believe me, Tracy, that I've had those same thoughts about that. Even, I mean, forget about the Gun Fun Trail, just the road on the business park itself is, as it now is getting full, that's what comes to mind for me. But that'll be a good conversation for the Planning Commission, and a public hearing, of course, will be noticing all of the folks who own property in the business park. They'll have a chance to come participate.
Cool.
And the PUC will be the 2-member board PUC, and really thanks Ann for sticking it out for a couple more months, because otherwise we would not have a quorum at all.
Right.
Is going to look at budgets for next year.
Any traction on filling any? No.
No, I've had some people tell me they're working on it, but we haven't had anybody come in and say, I want to serve on the Planning Commission or the PUC.
I'll mention it tomorrow on the, I'll make a thing on the WTIP piece on this meeting, so.
Nice.
What about park board? Same?
Same. We've got openings, and I feel like every business knows our pain right now with the we got openings kind of thing going on. So.
And we don't pay anything.
Right.
So there's that.
Tons of fun.
You need to appoint an official treats person for
There
each
you
of
go.
their
There you go.
committees.
Rotating treats.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right, we have concluded our business, and thus we are adjourned.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.